Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything that is going on in the crypto market, the NFT market, and the crazy meme coin market as things are happening. Pretty much, market is on fire at the moment. We're going to get into everything and more in just a little bit. Loaded up for discussion today. We have three specific things, as well as a general roundup on everything. Got the crypto market hitting all-time high. The crypto market cap, going over 3.046 trillion. Binance review listings are out for dog and pups. So the Bitcoin runes have been really moving as a consequence, and DeSci is a new sector which has emerged today and are soaring. Three coins hit, one coin called Riff hit 200 million, Euro hit 70 million as well. So we're going to be getting in to understand what DeSci even means. We've also got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs and a discussion on the general state of the markets at the moment. So stay tuned for that. We are fortunate to have a full house. We've got Legendary, we've got Sammy, and we've got Bread back in the house with us. So cannot wait to get into it today. But just a reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice, because it's very, very risky out there. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Sammy, how you doing? It's Monday. It's the 18th of November. What's going on?
Feels like roulette. Every time you throw it at someone, it's like, who's going to be first? Like, are they going to be ready? Yeah, good. It's like this weekend was pretty hectic. I was trying to keep on top of all these trends emerging. But yeah, I was locked in for most of the weekend, trying to pay attention, trying to catch some of the early ones, like Legendary did. Smashed it whilst on holiday.
Yeah, there we go. Legendary. What's going on your side? How have you been? How's your holiday? Are you holidaying or not really?
Look, I love Japan so far. Kyoto and Tokyo couldn't be more different. The cities both are fascinating. My mom loves it. The food is amazing. The culture and politeness of people. We and I had a chat about like Western and Eastern societies and the demise and degeneracy in the West. But the real alpha when it comes back to crypto and when it comes back to the trenches really seems to be trading the American night times during my daytimes, which is very relaxed. If you're in an Uber, in a bus, in a subway going somewhere, and you know it's like 3 a.m. in the US trenches, and you can like have your coffee, trade the stuff, and do the things, is very, very profitable to do. And honestly, for that reason alone, I would love to extend and cope with the fact that I'm hosting the show at 9 p.m.
Check you had the same feelings I did too, right? He said
very
doing
relaxing,
it on the train. Doing it.
You just sit on the subway, you just do a little bit of trading, Brad. You just sit on the scooter,
throw a
bit of trading.
Yeah, just a couple G's over here, dump it into some AI, whatchamacallit coins, maybe it goes 10x, maybe it goes to 0. Just something to do that's really mentally free is what I like to think.
Yeah, just to pass the time, you can't do any sightseeing without doing a little bit of trading as well at the same time. One question for you, Brad. I know you are now working your way back to the West from the East. You're at the meeting point of the East and the West in Turkey at the moment. Legendary mentioned some of the cultural differences. I saw a bit of a funny story from your side about Turkey. What's going on with you?
Yeah, so I mean, people who are familiar with the crypto space, Mert is Turkish. So I found out where he gets a lot of his energy from, and it's from being straight up Turkish, like a lot of that aggressiveness. Frankly, there's everything. Like the city's great, I love it here, but like everything is just the next level up. Whether it's like the panhandlers or whether it's people trying to get you into their restaurant, or like everything is just a little more in your face and physical. Frankly, people straight up like one panhandler to grab my hand and would not let go of my hand for a little bit until like he tried to shine my shoes. That was a lot to deal with. But talking about the East and West stuff, yes, it is like we noticed going from Asia to now hitting Europe again, plastic surgery on the rise. Definitely just like a lot more makeup on the rise. That there's a lot of that as we go west. Interesting to kind of take in just gradually.
That's hilarious. So Turkey's potentially great training for crypto marketing, getting your voice heard. Good spot. Good stuff. Fascinating stuff. Look, we're going to get into so much to talk about. We're going to get into everything get into a discussion on all the things we just mentioned, but let's get you up to speed with what's happened first over the last, over the whole weekend. And it was genuinely really hard to write the snapshot today because stuff's moving super fast right now, and definitely want to kind of digest where we are in the market as part of that conversation. Right, let's start with the majors. We got Bitcoin pretty much flat, actually, sitting very, very comfy at about $91,000, pushing 92,000. ETH, unsurprisingly, sitting pretty comfy at 3.1K, $3,100. Not really in danger of moving up as far as I can tell, according to this chart. Solana, however, has moved up 3% to now almost $250. That's up 17% on the week. Just for a bit of context, Bitcoin's up 11% on the week. ETH is down 2% on the week. So not great from that perspective there. Getting into the headlines themselves, as I mentioned, we have headlines here. The crypto market cap's hit just gone over 3 trillion. That is an all-time high for the crypto market cap. Binance reviews listings for dog and pups, and that's kind of sent Bitcoin meme coins much higher. $1 billion cat's up 23%, pups is up 34%, dog hit a $700 million market cap. On top of that, CoinDesk just published an article suggesting that a lot of attention will flow to Bitcoin meme coins. DeSci coins emerge and soar. There are 3 notable coins in this DeSci arena. Riff hit 200 million, Euro hit 70 million, and Bio hit 6. There's a couple of others lurking around as well. What is decentralized science? We'll talk about it more later, but in essence, it's an approach to scientific research that uses decentralized technologies to revolutionize traditional science. Instead of relying on centralized institutions and intermediaries, DeSci implements decentralized practices for knowledge creation and distribution. We'll find out what that means more as we discuss it a little later. Getting into notable sales, CryptoPunk's still riding high. I think the floor is around 37 ETH. This Nerd Glasses piece, which I'm showing on screen, sold for 41.5 ETH. Beeple continued his high sales, 24.4 ETH for his GigaChad, and Tyler Hobbs Fidenza selling for 23.5 ETH. Legendary, do you want to get into the NFT side of things before we round this off?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this time we actually have something interesting to say on the NFT side of things. It's been a green week. Bored Apes are up 20%, 21% over the last 7 days, down to 2.5% over the last 24 hours, but sitting at a 13 ETH floor. That's the highest they've been in a while. Pudgies reclaimed the 10 ETH floor, up 1.7% over the last 24 hours, up 13% over the last 7 days, so 10.16 ETH floor for them. Azuki's rather flat, both over the last week and over the last 24 hours, sitting at a 4.8 ETH floor. Now to the big mover, that is Milady's. Milady's are up 25% over the last 7 days, 17% over the last 24 hours alone, sitting comfortably at a 6.4 ETH floor, pulling way ahead of Azuki's. And also wanted to check in once more with the Doodle side of things, because we had the big news last week. They did shoot up to a 2.5 ETH floor, corrected down to 2.0, but a backup again, up 108% over the last 7 days, up 4.5% over the last 24 hours, sitting at a 2.8 ETH floor.
Love it. Great breakdown there. Just to get up to speed with everything else from the snapshot, which is pinned, not pinned up top, but it will be in a minute. Warren Buffett backed Nubank back in Brazil. Sorry, Warren Buffett backed Nubank is a bank in Brazil which has just launched USDC swaps for Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol. That's pretty big news. Paul Tudor Jones has reportedly increased his Bitcoin holdings 5-fold, reaching a total value of $159 million. That's the very big hedge fund manager who we mentioned on the show last week. We talked about the interview that he gave where he said he was long Bitcoin, long stocks, and all roads led to inflation. This was a funny one. One of the most ridiculous headlines I've ever written, I think. CryptoPunk AI agent created as a meme coin in the likeness of 2019 Snowfro burned CryptoPunk. I think that makes sense if you read it back twice, but I understand if it doesn't for you. $8 million FTV, this coin which was launched. And finally, ApeCoin announced native yield on Ape Chain. I think Quit suggested that if no more Ape is bridged across, native APY on Ape Chain, it will effectively shoot up to 32.6%, which is pretty interesting. That's the Web3 Roundup. Before we get into the bigger discussion today on all the main headlines and general market chat, Legendary, is there anything picking out here from the the Web3 Roundup news that's kind of catching your attention?
I mean, I think you kind of know what I'm going to talk about, right?
Yeah.
It is the revived, undead, revived punk, died on ETH.
How do you even describe that in one line? Like, did I do okay? Like, it's such a ridiculous little.
I think you did pretty well, and I saw it pretty early. Was quite lucky with that. I found it just hilarious that like undead punk is burnt and comes back on Solana and has a chance there to actually be like meaningful again, because nobody has been talking about this thing in years.
Just take it back like once. So some people might just have literally no idea.
All right. So what happened there is that basically 5 years ago, this very, very rare CryptoPunk got burned, aka sent to the 0x0 trash bin of Ethereum, an address where from you can't recover any assets. Whatever gets sent there, whether that's cryptocurrencies, NFTs, this is going to stay there. And this was what happened to this CryptoPunk. And someone now with that trend of AI agents and meme coins around AI agents had the idea to basically bring that punk back, turn it into, by bringing it back, it's just turning it into a meme coin connected with an AI agent using this VWaifu and AI16Z quote unquote tech stack. And that seemed to kind of hit a nerve, because there's been a lot of discussion, are NFTs dead? Are they back again? What's going on there? And I was quite lucky to seeing this guy early at like a 300K market cap. It did go up all the way to 25, 26-ish mil, actually, before going all the way back to 8 mil or 7 mil where it's trading right now, maybe even 6. One thing that I pointed out is that the devs are willing to send 1% of the supply to Snowfro, kind of as a tribute to him. So that was a bit of a weird story. I've seen a couple other punks and other like NFTs being launched in a similar way. Someone said Franklin needs to bring his golden ape back as an AI agent meme as well. So let's see if this becomes a little mini trend, or if this was just a one-off with this punk. But it was a funny story nonetheless.
That was a funny one. It did make me wonder though, like, I don't know, a lot of things are popping off at the exact same time. And I was reflecting a little bit over the weekend, can all of the things sustain at the same time, especially when, and this is the thing I became really conscious of and would want your perspective, Legendary, especially because all of these, like a lot of these coins that are now what people are talking about as mid caps or something, were created like 2 weeks ago, maximum, maybe even only 7 days ago. And so the question is, can things like this just come in and become a mid cap at the expense of, or can they only become mid caps if they're at the expense of some of the other ones that are already existing? So whilst everyone thinks that everything is ripping at the moment, which I think broadly it is, I actually was just like scrolling down the charts more generally to see, is there anything that had loads of attention before and just has not moved in this period of time? And I found this one, which everyone will almost certainly know. I'm going to share it on the screen for the people who are watching in, but just to give you some perspective of what it might feel like. I mean, to be fair, this might just be like what it feels like to be an ETH holder at the moment. But this is on the meme coin side of things. We've got this one, the Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic, Inu coin, which has got the ticker Bitcoin. So this one's at 24 cents at the moment. It's a $245 million market cap, which is like still quite a lot, right? But it's down 4% on the day. It's down 10% it's down 10% on the day. It's down 13% on the week. And in the last 30 days, it's down 16%. So it's not necessarily the case that all of these things can or this is my thinking at the moment. It's not necessarily the case that all of these things can sustain at the same time, especially when so many new things are coming in from nowhere. D-side turns up over the weekend and we send that to like 50 million and 200 million as well. It's like, well, what about all the other things that had loads of attention? And so what I'm wondering, and what I wanted your perspective on, Legendary, is do you think that's kind of along the right line? Do you think some of these older ones will suffer? And then my extension of that thinking is some of these ones that are right now hot because they've just come in, because they're only 7 days old, like be wary of them in 2 weeks time, because God knows what we've moved on to at that point in time. What's your thinking?
Yeah, absolutely agree. Look, we speak about this mini metas, but they are very, very quick ones, right? I think if you look at I'm gonna bring Kaito up again in a second later in the show when I get to my segment. But if you look at how fast attention is shifting, basically people like Murad and Ansem used to kind of be leading on the narrative mind share. Now Bonk Guy has, I think, more attention than Ansem, Murad, and many of the other like top meme coin KOLs together. You had decentralized science flipping DeFi. You had DeFi flipping AI, then just dropping both by 70% within days. And you also see that if something's like new and hot in the market and runs like to 100, 150 mil in a couple of days, or in a crazy case within a day, that sucks out liquidity from the majors. Because I think what a lot of people might be doing, and it's something that I'm doing sometimes, when I'm basically like massively allocated in Photon and I just don't have like enough free sol, and I see a quick play I want to do over a couple of hours, I'm like very happy to, I don't know, sell 10 sol from my goat bag, go into that thingy, let it play out, take profits, and buy my goat bag. And that's what probably a lot of people are doing, because you literally can see liquidity getting sucked out of the other things. It's you could counter trade that. Like if something is running and you miss that, it might be a good chance to buy like some of the things, Luce, goat, whatever you think is interesting, bonk, that you're bullish on, to buy that back again. But we're definitely in a mode where, yes, there's a lot of liquidity, and yes, there's way more liquidity than in the last cycle in memes in particular, but where liquidity is not like getting added by new people coming in, by the masses joining. It's a lot of capital just shifting around to new winners, then people taking profits, obviously the majority of people losing money, and then that capital flowing back to the quote unquote majors.
Yeah, and I guess my question, which I want to hear from Sam on this as well, because I know you were locked in all weekend. That we're going to go to Brad for conversation on ETH. What's your thought on this, Sam? Like, you've been locked in over the weekend. What's your kind of observation on the flows of capital at the moment? How are you observing this?
I mean, I definitely agree with Legendary to an extent, but I think an obvious indicator is probably the overall market cap of memes specifically, which to me seems like, okay, well, liquidity is being drawn from other areas of crypto. So if you start looking at kind of different subsegments of crypto and analyzing that, you look at memes specifically, I think that's up to 112 billion, and it peaked at just below 120 billion, which is like, I'm trying to look at the all-time high that smashed through the previous all-time high of around about, I think it's about 100 billion back in 2021. So you're looking at, you're already 20% higher than it has been historically ever. So there is more capital flowing into memes specifically as a whole. So I think the entire boat, or the rising tide lifts all boats. I think all these memes are pumping to an extent. But I do agree with Ledge that, like, ultimately, if you really want to go into a play in a short-term time frame and you don't have that soul, you are going to kind of take it from those bigger plays that may be a little bit more stable. Because if you're going to take it out of a very volatile asset as well that could pump as well, the thing that you then go into might end up being performing less well when you go back into that original like goat or whatever it might be. So there's definitely a lot of strategy going on. I think probably you see some liquidity come out, and I saw it with Frog as well over the weekend. Like, that's one of my biggest bags, and I noticed that had got down significantly. It just had a dip. But that's probably because people are trying to catch these other plays. But then this morning it kind of pumps back up to where it was originally. So people are kind of flowing back into those bigger, more stable, I wouldn't say blue chips, I don't know if it's the right term, but more stable memes.
But I think that's my point. That this is my big question mark is how are you categorizing the blue chip? And if you get that categorization wrong, that's where I think a lot of recency bias is coming in right now. And that's where I'm getting a bit conscious for my own thing, where people are talking about Luce as if it's a given. People are talking about basically including my bags, like the bags that I had convinced myself was like, oh, I think these are awesome. Then I just looked at the chart and I was like, wait, these have only been around for 14 days. Like this space moves so fast. Like how is it possible that we've all become so convinced on, I don't know, Luce, Goat, maybe some of the other AI ones. I know that some of them, Goat, for example, is category leader, so I can see that more. But some of the other ones, like They've been around like 14 days, guys. You don't know 100% yet. So the recency bias is the main thing that I just wanted to bring to attention. Like this stuff's really not been around for long. So just that's what I'm keeping in mind. Legendary, you want to come in and then we'll go to Brad.
Yeah, this is why I think it's so important, and it's something we've been doing in our conversations, that if we talk about time frames, that we're like super specific what we mean by those, right? When I talked about short term, to me, like short term is a couple of hours. Short term can even be like a 30-minute play because something is trending right now, because someone, in this case, I don't know, Shaw, the guy behind the AI16Z, is talking about some AI coin. People ape into that, then sell it off unless they find out it's interesting. Like the whole market right now is in a mindset where if someone who's deemed as relevant talks about something, the market is willing to buy that and then do due diligence and then see, it looks good, it doesn't look that good, and then either sell it off or keep writing it up. And midterm plays are only like a couple of days long, right? Long term might be a couple of weeks, and exactly to your question, right? That's so contrary to what I'm used to from the TradFi world, or what Sammy is used to, what Brett is used to. When we talk about long-term stuff, that's 5 to 10 years, long-term strategy of a company. It's like, what is this guy's going to do in the next decade? And it's like the completely different time frame that matters here. And I wouldn't be confident. Like, I think, for example, GOAT, because you mentioned it, has the potential to do a lot more good things in this cycle, but I wouldn't be confident to call it like as an established blue chip that will survive this cycle. I don't know if it's going to survive this cycle. I'm confident that Doge is going to be around because it has been around for 2015? I can't remember. Like more than 7 years for sure. And that's something that's coming back. Pepe is probably not going to die. SHIB is probably not going to die. But stuff like GOAT might seem super promising, and Peanut might seem super promising because they lived for a week or 2 weeks above $1 billion, but they still very much could go down minus 80% if the attention is just flowing away to something else.
100%. And
on silly season is what I'm hearing.
Entirely. Because what Sam said, I was observing exactly. Like some of the capital was flowing out of maybe ones that were a bit more established to chase newer things. But then I was looking at the things that were flowing out of. I was like, I don't even know if you've been around long enough to be classified as like the pre-existing thing. So say if some of that capital moves away, does it necessarily come back? Depending on the community that's already been built, depending on the holders that are already there, it could never come back if you go and chase the next thing and people don't look at it and see the strength. So that was my main point. Just wanted to bring up the recency bias thing, because I think this space moves so fast. It feels like all this stuff's been around much longer than it actually has. So that's just the question mark I'm putting against that. But good to have that conversation out loud. We'll discuss more on the market as we go through the show, because lots of the headlines are kind of
probably just one more point around that. And I think just an observation that I've kind of seen. I mean, last cycle we saw Bitcoin as that dominant asset, and then you have the alt season that follows. I do kind of see we're kind of seeing that on a smaller scale, but within the meme coin subsector. And I do wonder, as a part of like market maturing, whether we're kind of seeing that same flow of capital, but on a micro scale.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's good to reflect on. We'll keep talking about it as we get into later in the show, and as the weeks go on. But let's first get into our segment with Bread today. Bread Tech. Bread has been very busy with the Mega ETH team at DevCon the last week or so, so he wasn't able to be on the show. But all kinds of big discussions going on about ETH, the status of ETH. Obviously, Solana is moving forward very, very aggressively. Want to get Bread's breakdown on where he sees ETH value accrual and the narrative of it being money. Bread, over to you. Bread, you are on mute. You are also not clicking unmute.
Good tech. Bread Tech.
That is fantastic tech from Bread. That is not... okay. Well, Bread is not going to do his segment, at least not right now, because the tech is failing. So what we'll do instead, let's just get into the main headline. We'll see if we can circle back with Bread in just a little bit. Let's go straight to Sam's section. Let's go to runes first, because two things happened in the last 24 hour, 48 hours, which I thought were interesting on the Rune side. One, Binance listed dog and pups, or sorry, they didn't list them. They're under review in order to be listed. As a consequence of that, there were a few of the runes that pumped big. So pups was up 34%, dog hit 700 million market cap, BDC, $1 billion cat hit, was up 23%. General moves across the runes market. And then also CoinDesk published an article on it too, kind of suggesting that it was, not so, that it was an area to look at. I'm going to pass over to you, Sam, for the full breakdown and any of your additional thoughts.
Yeah, so I think just being under review, it's almost like a top-notch marketing player. I find like these listings are now becoming what everyone's looking towards, and I think that specifically in itself is a huge thing. But I think there's two other points I probably want to just touch on around this, and I think that the first one's just around accessibility. Like these sex listings are just for people who are coming back to the space for the first time, it's a good opportunity for them to get exposure to new things without going fully on chain. And I think that is a huge thing, just to access runes, which I think historically have been pretty tricky to trade, whether it's like being sniped on when you're buying them, or various other issues and headwinds that it becomes a bit of an uphill battle for new people to get access to and exposure to. So I think for me that's a huge thing for this specifically, and it's no wonder that I think I actually think dog hit 800 mil, so it's actually pumped even more, and pups at about 380 mil, which is pretty wild given that they're relatively new, like it's less than a year, and I think that specifically is probably just the main point that I'd like to make around that, just the accessibility and liquidity around that you get access to. But beyond that, I think, I don't have too much more to comment on it.
Okay, pretty significant stuff. Let's look at this CoinDesk article. I've just got it up. I think maybe there might be some more stuff there. And sometimes it's like all traditional media. Sometimes I'm not necessarily looking for the key piece of information. I'm just trying to learn what is being communicated. It's the same way I watch the news. It's like I get all my news from Twitter, basically, more or less. But I just want to watch the actual news, not to get the news, but to just know how the news is being communicated to people. So this is what the CoinDesk article said on Bitcoin meme coin. So the headline was "Missed Bitcoin rally to 93K?" ? Bitcoin meme coins could be the next to watch. While on-chain metrics show no uptick in Rune's protocol on-chain metrics as of Monday, these typically follow social activity and narratives, with prices leading afterwards. They specifically mentioned pups, dog, and $1 billion cat are becoming more popular beta bets for Bitcoin growth. The Runes protocol, which facilitates the creation of fungible tokens directly on Bitcoin, has overtaken BRC20 in market cap. I think that was always going to happen, right? BRC20s was like the initial instantiation of kind of meme coins on Bitcoin, but everyone talks about Runes these days instead. So this kind of is just like a bull post for Bitcoin memes, to be honest, by CoinDesk. They said that, yep, they're gaining traction. They show some of the data showing that basically they're all up in the last few days. Specifically, Runes have hit a $1.88 billion market cap and has flipped BRC20, which is 1.85 billion. Just to put that in context, guys, how low does that sound? Like, Sam, is it not crazy that we have single coins on ETH and Solana that are $1 billion market caps, and on Runes the whole category is 1.8 billion? Like, that's insane, right?
Which is wild, and especially when you compare it to utility coins that are kind of getting a bit of a hammering. And I think that to me is like why it's so wild, and maybe it is inflated to an extent. It's pure speculation. And to an extent, I do think it is probably a bit of the fool's gold, like you're trying to find someone else to buy your bags at a higher price, and how high can this go? And I think at least with utility, it's tagged to like whether it's cash flows or an underlying like fundamental value. And it's interesting to see that disparity between that fundamentals and speculation. And it's similar with like when we talk about AI16Z as an example, like we spoke about NAV being a meme. Like, it's effectively a DAO. It's got assets under management. It's a fund, but then it's got these other plays on the side, and it's just gone parabolic. And I do wonder like whether that AI premium or speculative premium on these assets is a bit inflated, and whether it could, I mean, it could still go higher. It could go substantially higher. But yeah, just bringing it back down to earth. And I'm just curious as to whether those utility coins are undervalued, and maybe at some point there's going to be a bit of a rally when this DeFi renaissance takes off. So yeah, just in terms of a comparison, it's interesting to see.
Like it. Legendary, what's your thought on the rune stuff? I know you'll kind of have your attention diverted in lots of different directions. This article, as well as multiple other people, right? Bonk Guy has also been tweeting aggressively that probably the biggest opportunity, because the whole total market cap for runes is only 1.8 billion, when 1.8 billion might be one single coin on ETH or on Solana. Like, this is the opportunity that has the most asymmetric upside for that reason. Do you agree with that? How are you thinking about that? What's your reflection?
I think the many good points have been mentioned. Liquidity, infusion, accessibility, validation by centralized exchanges is helpful. I don't know how retail thinks necessarily. Like, retail knows what Bitcoin is, retail knows what maybe Dogecoin is. Do they think about a Bitcoin, a meme coin that is being built on Bitcoin, and or do you just think that's a meme and they don't really care about Doge is its own thing, isn't its own thing? But that also doesn't really matter, because again, thinking too much about that in this cycle, or in this particular moment of the cycle, feels like mid-curving it, because there's a lot of attention there. Because yes, there is validity to that thought that 2 bill of a meme coin market cap on Bitcoin, which is by far the biggest cryptocurrency, by far the biggest market cap, is basically the size of peanut, 2-week-old
Yeah.
Solana meme coin that is a dead squirrel. So that in itself screams that the market wants to allocate more towards the Bitcoin side of things. But the accessibility is a big thing. And we've kind of seen that also with base memes, with stuff on BNB, with stuff that's migrating from BNB to Solana, where people are not really willing to kind of move their funds across if they're Solana native. They just don't want to have the hassle. They don't even want to use a bridge that basically gets you your funds in 2 minutes. You click 2 buttons that look the same as on Solana, and you buy your thing on Base or on BNB, and people don't want to do that. And it's fast on L2, it's cheap. And then you're on BTC, where you buy runes in bundles and sell them Magic Eden. It takes you 15 or 20 minutes to do a transaction. When I wanted to buy Memento Mori, I was like clicking through 20, 30 bundles of runes, and they already were in the mempool. I couldn't buy them. It took me like 30 minutes to, it took me 30 minutes before I was even able to put in, I don't know, like 2K into that meme coin. And that is absurd. Like, nobody wants to trade like that. Yeah.
The worst customer experience.
It is.
Maybe in the whole industry at the moment.
And if Solana people can't be bothered to move to L2s, they for sure can't be bothered to experience what is going on BTC, which, yes, makes it probably an early asymmetric opportunity. But the question ultimately is what will be listed. I think people are surprised by the Binance listings, and I think, yes, we will see some of the big things from the Rune side being listed on exchanges, but I think there also will be some surprises there that will get a lot of criticism and FUD on the timeline, why the exchange is listing that token and not their own bag.
Yeah, I think that's always going to happen. But so 2 points on this. One, I think Magic Eden have announced they're going to be producing something which is going to radically change the UX and customer experience for buying runes, which should improve that friction. Reduce the friction. Second question, which I'd want to think about, and I think I know the answer to this, or I'll share my take on this, but you mentioned, like, what we've spoken about so far is Bitcoin meme coins versus other meme coins. The other way to think about it is Bitcoin meme coins versus Bitcoin. And so if you think, so I think that the proportion, the market cap of Bitcoin runes against Bitcoin's market cap is like shockingly small when you compare ETH meme coins versus ETH's market cap, or Sol meme coins versus Sol market cap. And so the question is like, if you think Bitcoin is going to go to 150, if Bitcoin's going to do a 1.5x from here or something in that region, what do you think runes do? Like, do runes just do a 1.5x as well? Do they do a 2x? Do they do a 5x? Do those do a 10x? I think a lot of people will simply, and I don't even know if we need retail for this, to be honest. I think if this kind of market stays, and if we go 1.5x for Bitcoin itself, just the people in this industry will bid it up so hard because they'll look at that comparison and say meme coins on Bitcoin are too undervalued versus Bitcoin itself. What do you think of that, Legendary?
I think that thesis works out because Bitcoin is performing so well.
If it goes down, then that's terrible. That's going to be terrible.
It is actually still outperforming Solana. I know that Solana is coming from way lower lows, but looking over the last weeks, looking even over the last days, we reported on the snapshot like BTC is doing better. Like that's not me, dumping on Solana, but it's just the great runner of this cycle. The same thesis wouldn't work for ETH. Like you wouldn't look at ETH right now and be like, oh, but this is the market cap of ETH and this is the meme coins that we have there, and they should be bigger because ETH is so much bigger than Solana and there's so much more economic activity, because ETH sentiment is not the most positive one. So this is why I think if Bitcoin would crash and we wouldn't have the like institutional price driving momentum around that would work. It needs both the things. It needs like exactly those market cap comparisons that you have been making, but it also needs the positive market sentiment towards it.
Yeah, I do think there's two other points though, just in terms of the participants on each chain are different. So if like Solana is known for memes, it's known like people are there for memes, it's easy to use. I don't think Bitcoin has that same like culture. Yes, there are runes, but I mean, and there's ordinals, but there's a very different segment of people on Bitcoin specifically. There's always that argument about, oh, runes are clogging up the chain. Like there's Bitcoin maximalists that are kind of within that segment that want to just have Bitcoin as an asset in its own without ordinals on there. So I think it's very difficult to then compare the total market cap of runes specifically or ordinals to the total Bitcoin market cap, because I think it's the makeup is slightly different, and how people interact with that chain is different to Solana, it's different to ETH. There probably are ways to measure how, like what proportions seem realistic and then to see if it's under or overvalued. But I just think like taking like a literal ratio to compare them, it can be a little bit misleading sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's part of the conversation. Look, I think that's enough on the runes. I think that's a good discussion there. Got a couple more things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the main crypto market cap, maybe just a general thing of where we are when we zoom out a little bit. But before we do that, let's zoom right back into the new sector, which has been taking the timeline by storm for at least 48 hours. So it's, very established, well part of the furniture now. We love a little bit of DeSci. Legendary, what is DeSci, decentralized science? Why are there coins for it? Why has it emerged? Why are they soaring? Give us the breakdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at what decentralized science is. There is a platform that launched on Solana with funding from the Solana Foundation, and it's called Pump.Science. And there were 2 experiments on there that also were those very popular meme coins that you just mentioned, Euro and Riff. And what is the idea behind that? So you basically test those compounds, those substances, Euro and Riff, on organisms. And depending on the market cap of the token, you'll test it on different things. So if it's a 69K market cap, they're going to test it on worms. If it's at a 1 mil market cap, they're going to test those substances on flies. If it's at 4 mil, they're going to test on mice. And also says that at level 4 is a 10 mil requirement for human testing, which I think has maybe a bit more complexity in that to test stuff on humans. Anyhow,
just a quick, I can't just let you keep talking about this without asking a question. So who's testing what on who?
The decentralized science platforms, the scientists using those decentralized science platforms. I don't know exactly who's testing that, but there is a live stream of the tests going on. But there's people testing, scientists testing stuff. And in this case, it's, for example, 2 compounds to see which of the one helps, if any of them, the flies live longer, and you can bet on that. And it's kind of more than betting on that, actually, because the idea of that is that the token is also ownership in the IP. And if whatever science shit that you're betting on actually turns out to be a good antibiotic, for example, you should profit from the IP rights of that. So this is the more intellectual approach of that. And also you have shared the Binance article in the snapshot, which kind of takes this even further and kind of goes on to say, look, decentralized science can be so good, academic publishing on decentralized repositories, research funding, data sharing, collaboration, all those things, all those benefits that hold true for blockchain and decentralized ledger technology. But what we're doing right now is we're watching a live stream of flies where there are substances being tested on them, and we're betting on that, and we're seeing how that plays out in real time. And probably a lot of people don't even know that this is a thing and that there is a live stream to watch, and they're just buying the meme coin. And going to that point, you mentioned there's been a few runners buying the meme coin on the DeSci board, on the decentralized science board. Looks exactly like that. Riff, the leader, 195 mil. There's also Vita, which shot up to 150 mil euro. The other compound that has been tested on the flies at 65, Sci-Hub at 53, and then this bio thing at 6.5, as reported by Tyler half an hour ago. So these numbers could also not be accurate anymore, but this is the basic breakdown of what's going on with decentralized science.
I had a conversation with my partner who's a doctor on this. So she's a doctor. And her immediate response was, this is really stupid because there's a process for like stuff being published in the academic field that is like really
that's
well
because
tested.
trad science is stupid, Sammy. We're disrupting the process, aren't we?
We're disrupting the process, but I think that she was concerned that there's a risk that this will come to market and there'll be products that aren't properly tested over a time span, and they do actually get into the population and shit goes wrong. So there is that element to it that, like, I'm all for, like, if they lean into that peer review process that it mentioned on that Binance publication, that's great, or improving the process or making it open source, more transparent. But then I think there is that dark side where if you're testing stuff on animals and then like betting on it, it's just like, I don't know, there's just like a dark side to it. I'm a little bit,
especially when it comes to the human part. I had the same conversation with my mom. She's been a biochemist for her entire life and doing research for decades. And I told her basically when the token hits a 10 mil market cap, they're going to test this compound on humans. And she's like, this is not how the real world is working. We are not watching an experiment with flies. And if that thing goes well, you're going to just take that substance and going to make humans ingest that. So I get like the basic idea of that. But right now, yes, this is a hot trend. And as we said, if we look at the Kaito, that analytics platform dashboard, it's about the same mind share that the DeFi has right now at 6.5%. But for the real applications, Sam is making this very valid point that to actually go through human testing, getting all the permits to be able to do that could take years and years. And obviously the meme market is moving way, way faster than that.
Okay, so there are many points to make on this topic. And yes, we can shoot holes in it from a variety of different ways. The key thing that I was thinking about is when just trying to understand it, because this betting thing's kind of taken me off guard. I wasn't aware of that, so I do want you to explain that a bit more. In principle, DeSci, when I read the Binance article earlier, it's just a different way to fund science. Because I think the argument that was being made by the Binance article is kind of the same as the argument you'd make against any traditional thing. They literally say trad-sci, which is trad science, is, they didn't say corrupt, but you know, anything's traditional is kind of all these loopholes, all these barriers that other people can't access. You know, it's too difficult to get things moving. This gives other people an opportunity to access the market, access liquidity. So it's just like a crowdsourcing, which ultimately is why crypto is so good for everything. Like crypto as a way to coordinate capital is definitely one of crypto's best use cases. So from that perspective, it's just pure crypto. You're kind of doing, it sounds like you're just doing science venture. Like, you know, that's what it sounds like to me. But Legendary, do you want to clarify that? How does the betting thing come in, and what exactly are you watching on the live stream? You're watching the random animals.
Let's actually take a look at it. It's done in a nice way. So if we take it riff, which I, as a non-native speaker, won't be able to pronounce in a nice way, Rifampicine, or you can give that a better try. I'm gonna just stick with riff. There is an explanation about this compound on the right-hand side. I'm sharing this on screen. That says it's traditionally known as an antibiotic. There's been research on that it could have a positive effect on slowing down aging in tiny organisms. This is exactly what this setup with the flies is trying to find out. In the middle of the screen, you can see the live stream. You can see the flies that are placed in containers with this riff compound. And on top of it, there is the tracker that shows you how many % of the individually camera tracked flies are still alive. In this case, we're seeing that there's still 100% of flies alive. There's obviously also a control group that you can have a look at, where there's also still 100% of flies alive. And this very same setup also exists with, again, I'm not going to try to pronounce this substance, with Euro, where you can also see the flies are alive, the control group flies are alive, and get some more information on that. Again, you get some extra info. You see the humidity, temperature, the dosage of that. And this is what's going on. And I don't know how this will look like if that gets to stage 4 with human testing. If there's going to be a live stream for that or not. But this is the current state of affairs. And it's actually done in a nice and entertaining way.
So, okay,
I have a question.
So helpful to see those visuals. So I'm wondering, if you are to see the flies dying because this product or this chemical is being used, and you start to see the numbers drop off, does that mean you start dumping the token?
Probably, but on the other hand, crypto loves dead animals, so I don't know what's more bullish: flies surviving or flies dying. It's a hard to answer question.
Also, do you know? Yeah, I was going to ask. Like, you can see those 4 glasses there, and you're trusting that what it says is what's happening. But like, it wouldn't surprise me if someone's literally just put 4 tubes of flies, made a nice UI, and raised, I don't know how much that fly token is, like multiple hundreds of millions.
This was something, though. I know what you mean, and I think it's very, very good to be healthily skeptical in this space in particular. I remember someone sharing, though, that these guys actually did a talk. Legendary, you can correct me if I'm wrong. These guys did a talk at Solana Breakpoint, and so it's like, I don't know if it's fully endorsed by the Solana Foundation, or whether it's like whether it's been approved or endorsed, or like, everyone has to do their own research on that. My understanding is they did a presentation. In concept, at least it's legit. Whether the token should be mooning as a consequence, and whether you're allowed to do human tests, I don't know. But the concept, I think, has some kind of connection to the main foundation. Legendary, do you know more on that?
Yes, you're precisely right about that. And the Solana Foundation has awarded a grant to that, which, again, means the Solana Foundation probably did some due diligence on that. And it looks good, but also grants have been given to participants or to companies that didn't turn out to have the best of intentions. And there is a lot of pharma companies that got billions in funding and didn't do good stuff. So again, this is not like a sign that this is all super legit. We can tell that at that stage probably, but conceptually it's interesting, and it definitely catches the attention in the market. That's probably the one thing that we can say with certainty.
Okay. Well, look, that is kind of fascinating. I'm glad we managed to give that breakdown to everyone, because there's definitely elements there which either I didn't understand, or I know for certain lots of people wouldn't have got that full picture. So appreciate that breakdown, Legendary. Last 5 minutes of the show today, I think it'd be helpful now to zoom out into the general market. We've obviously seen the crypto market the crypto market cap hitting its all-time high at 3.046 trillion. Things feeling pretty positive in general. How are you guys feeling about the market in general? What are you focusing on? What is interesting you? Where's your attention going? Maybe let's go to Sammy first, and then go to Legendary, and then I'll share some thoughts.
Well, I think it's going higher. I just don't know on what time frame. I think that 100K mark is probably something I'll be looking towards. I'm looking towards the inauguration as some two key kind of metrics. But I do think that we touched on indicators last time round. I mean, if you look at the fear and greed index, like that's at 86 or whatever today, which is pretty high, but it's been at 86. I don't know if that thermometer or whatever is broken. It's just been at so high for so long. So I don't know whether it just needs to go to a new level. But I'm just kind of expecting a bit of a pullback at some point. I'm trying to allocate to things that I'm comfortable holding towards the medium term, also meme term then, but yeah, memes as well. But I think AI is something I'm super interested in. I think the narrative around Web 4.0 is super interesting. So we've got stage 3 AI agents at the moment, and then there's suggestions that it could go to stage 4, stage 5. I think stage 5 is effectively when Web 4.0 comes in, which is like autonomous agents transacting on chain with complete systems, like DeFi systems set up for them. And it's definitely getting there to an extent. Like centralized exchanges use AI to help them with trading currently. You've got AI agents on chain. We've seen them on socials, like fairly primitive at the moment, but there's DeFi protocols they're plugging into. I expect that to get a lot more advanced and just like picking the winners. And I think we've got those AI meme coins, and that's one thing, like your Goats, your Zero Bro, those ones. But I do think there's AI agent tokens and protocols that will probably come quite significant or come back quite significant this cycle. So I'm just keeping an eye out for that.
Okay, the AI agent stuff is super interesting. I know you're very much on top of that. So that's where your attention is going probably mostly. Appreciate that. Legendary, what are you thinking? How are you playing things? What's on your mind?
Very much agree with Sammy. I'm heavily focusing on AI. I'm not going to repeat everything he said. Just one thing. You have the meme coin side. You have the infrastructure side, which Sammy was alluding to. And my hope is, or my line of thought is, that some market participants won't necessarily like to allocate all of that into memes, and they will also look at some of the infrastructure tokens behind that, and that those might have a good run. Apart from that, I also agree on the point inauguration date is key, maybe even a bit before that, because I feel like a lot of people are focusing on that. And if the whole market is focusing on that, things might cool off before that, because people will try to front run the day, the week, the 2 weeks before the inauguration. So this is what I'm looking into. For now, focus wise, it's Base and Solana, or in the different order, Solana and Base for me. For the things, AI stuff on Base, some of the agents, AI XBT, Vader, and some of the other agents are running like crazy. The DAO.fun stuff, AI 16Z on Solana is running like crazy as well. Went up to almost 500 mil, I think 470, corrected down to 370. So I also like to look outside of plays that that either live on Solana or live on Base, but they're outside of the tradability of Photon, because AI 16Z, to my knowledge, is not tradable on Photon. So that is interesting to me. And then I still like staying in the trenches, getting the early runners very much, as well as doing the swing trades with a like 1 day, 2 day time frame, and playing around with that as well. But I am starting to think about, when's the time to take out profits, because this can't go on forever.
I like that thinking. Just from my perspective, I've never really considered myself a huge trader. I try to buy things like the essence of trading is, yes, buying things undervalued and then selling it at a higher value. But the way I often think about it is that I try to buy undervalue and just sell it at fair value. Like I'm just trying to hold things and then move it back to the price that it should be. And then I'm happy to cut there. But in terms of profit taking, I don't know. I'm just trying something at the moment where I'm just aggressively taking it all the time, trying to sell routinely. If I'm using like a bigger stack on something and I get a 20-30% move, like remember guys, and look, everyone can design their own strategy because it depends on your capital and your own personal situation. 30% move is humongous. Like I know it doesn't feel like that in this space, but again, like when you actually digest how big some of these moves can be, if you're working with a bit more capital and you know 20% and 30% like can be fairly significant as well. So I've been doing that quite routinely, and assuming that I'm not going to be able to time a top necessarily, where it's like, right, now I'm going to take everything and put it into stables and Bitcoin or whatever. I'm just like kind of going through the process and doing that routinely, splitting it between either dollars and Bitcoin and Solana actually this cycle. So that's what I'm thinking about. Final reflection there, Legendary, on that strategy. Maybe you're thinking about it slightly differently.
Very, very much agree on that. Don't have anything of substance to add to it because I fully agree.
Sam, any final thoughts before we close out for this week coming up?
No, just lock in. Lock in.
Any argument that we should not be locked in, that we should take some time off, that we should relax for the next 5 to 7 days?
Probably to recover, to then lock in again, just to make sure that you're not just like missing those. Because I think, to be honest, like over the weekend, like I did get a little bit, my attention got stretched a little bit, and I think just having a good rest and then coming back with a fresh perspective definitely helps.
Dude, I went to bed. I had a nap. I never nap during the day, and had to have a nap yesterday. It was like,
I told you, Cristiano Ronaldo is the alpha. 4 to 5 naps a day and keep trading in between the naps.
Yeah, 3 to 5 p.m. was my nap. But the nap got interrupted by checking price action. So look, sometimes it happens. Guys, we hope that was a helpful show. I thought we did some really great breakdowns there on some of the stuff, which, you know, the market's just flying in every single direction. Hopefully this show can kind of break some of those things down and make sure you're up to speed with everything. Remember, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour, live on Twitter, live on YouTube as well. We're on video on X as well, which gets broadcast on my account, Sammy's account, Legendary's account, and the Modern Market account. Make sure you follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well if you prefer to catch up that way too. Have a wonderful day, guys. We'll be back with you, unsurprisingly, tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern time. Have a great day, and bye-bye.